Hard Eyes has just hit theaters, and I went and saw it, and I immediately texted Grace, and I said, hey, you got to go see it because we have to talk about this movie. We're going to dive into this awesome slasher / romantic comedy / parody / what is going on with this movie?
/ almost a scary movie type parody film.
Yes, but then again, is it whenever you get the entire package? Because it becomes something more at the same time. Either way, it's going to be a fun conversation. Make sure and like and subscribe here to Carnage Candy for all your horror needs, where you can see myself and Grayson talk horror like crazy. We have other Valentine's Day movies like My Bloody Valentine coming up and Valentine from 2001, which you can go watch. Also, continue to support us on Hangtime's Patreon at patreon.com/hangtime. If you like horror movie content, please support it directly. Let's get right into the nitty gritty. Grayson.
Yes.
What a journey this movie takes you on.
It really does. It wasn't what I was expecting. I will go out and start with that. It was not anything I was expecting.
We left the theater and Chelsea watched reviews of Hard Eyes, or looked at reviews at Hard Eyes, and she came to the conclusion that people that love horror movies would hate this and they would feel tricked by it. Chelsea went in completely blind, and more than anything, I'm excited to hear about your thoughts on that sentiment.
I don't necessarily agree with that per se. I could see how like ultra diehards that just wanted like a uber scary film might do that.
Traditionalists.
But I mean, you're going into a film to where the killer has hearts for his eyes.
Yes.
So I think a lot of horror fans will go into it knowing that there's probably going to be something wacky about it. I think the main thing that, you know, traditional horror fans will have an issue with is that I think a lot of people will have an issue with the line it teeters with being overly silly and trying to balance it out with a horror, because that's the hardest thing to do with horror comedy, is find that perfect balance. And I think that's where a lot of people are going to start to fall off on this.
Yes. So we're watching the film, and we have H.E.K., the Hard Eyes Killer.
Yep.
Who is a national serial killer who on Valentine's Day goes around and kills couples. And we get this opening scene, which is pretty stellar.
It is. It's a good opening.
We have a couple that is kind of avoid most spoilers for this because we know you're wanting to go see this thing. But we get this really, Chelsea leans over to me. She goes, is this made out of AI? And I'm like, it's supposed to look like it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the soundtrack is funny, and it is making fun of this kind of over-romanticized culture. You get
overacted.
Yes, it's overacted to death. Yes. As we'll find out, the entire movie is, right?
Yep.
And it sets up a very fun tone that it's like, okay, cool, that was ridiculous, and we'll see how this kind of wrangles itself into reality, because clearly it's making fun of the holiday.
Yep.
And we end up meeting after this couple is killed. We learn that this is it's happened in 3 previous years. H.E.K. is going around and murdering couples that are in love.
Yep.
We immediately meet our lead, who is a marketing executive at a jewelry company.
Yep.
Which is great. If you can look up her name, Grayson.
It's Allie is the character's name, played by Olivia Holt.
Okay. And then we meet, she is with her best friend, who is pretty funny. And the movie hits you with this, like, we're going to make fun of romance like crazy, right? And we get her meeting Mason Gooding's character. From Scream, from Booksmart. He's kind of on a tear right now.
He really is.
And their meet cute is we've seen this trope 8 million times.
If you've seen a Hallmark film, you've seen this meeting.
Yes, and that is where we start to watch this, and Chelsea and I are just like, this is so bad, right?
Yep.
And immediately they hit their head, they're awkward with each other, there's clearly great chemistry there, and this thing kind of happens with you where you're like, this is a lazy Netflix movie. From the beginning, after this awesome kind of kill scene with the opening, we're like, this is a Netflix style movie. And then you're like, okay, I thought it was going to be making fun of Netflix style movies, but it's really falling into all the tropes of its Netflix style movies, right? So you're like, this is parody, but it's not like Scary Movie Leslie Nielsen levels of parody.
It's close.
Yes. It's just kind of skirting this weird line. Then we learn that she now has to come up with a new campaign. Lo and behold, her meet cute, what's his name in the film?
Jay.
Yeah, Jay. Jay is now here to basically retcon her work. So they have to work together for a marketing campaign or she's fired during a holiday when there's a serial killer on the loose about to murder all the romantic people that the HEK killer can find. We get this meet with the cops of the film. You got Jordana Brewster and I don't know, how did your girlfriend Tip respond to Devon Sawa?
And she was so excited.
Yes. Devon Sawa, any girl from our generation's boyfriend, right?
Yep.
You get Devon Sawa, and I'm kind of fighting this urge to check out of the movie, like while I'm watching it.
Yeah.
And so their names are Hobbs and Shaw, and the movie just has this stint with no more violence for a good 30 minutes.
It's a long period of going back and forth, seeing the detectives, talking with Jay, Allie trying to redeem what happened. And it's a long one. Like you're just sitting there waiting and waiting. There are some funny things that happen. I will admit. There are laughs in this moment that keep you interested, but it is a little bit.
It's almost frustrating because you're like, this is a bad It's like, this is a bad carbon copy, but then like you get this restaurant scene where she just goes on a tear about romance and how she hates it, and it's like I start to really fall out of the movie. I'm like, this movie. I think, oh no. It's making fun of these movies, but it also thinks it's too smart to be one of it. Thinks it's better than those movies while it's copying these movies. And then I get this idea in my head that this movie is full of itself.
Okay.
And I really start to fall out of it. And we get to this bedroom scene, and then something starts.
I knew this was going to turn you around.
And then something starts to happen to me, Grayson. I start rooting for this couple. You know, I'm like, this movie's full of itself. I hope nothing bad happens to either one of them. And I hope, and because I think the movie kind of takes long enough, whether on purpose or not, for me to start to not think about the killer. Right. And I'm just thinking about I'm mostly thinking he's probably the killer, right? Or he's involved with the killer.
I that's intentional.
Yes. But kind of walk me through your kind of feelings.
So yeah, I'm very up and down as well. You know, there's parts of me that really enjoy the ride I'm going on, and I see what it's doing. I see it's supposed to be a Hallmark horror film. And I really understand what's going on. At this point, I think the only thing that's really affected me, like I'm still in it. I'm still in the film. The only thing that's affecting me is the fact that you have this killer that's just gone for a very long period of time. So that's the only thing in this film that's really hurting me at this moment. I do enjoy the chemistry between the two characters. And I am just like you. I want to see if they can make it through. I want to see how this is going to go, because there are funny things that are happening to them as this is happening. So
endearing moments.
Yes, there really are. And when you get to the bedroom scene, it does play out really well. There's a funny scene that gets them up into the bedroom, and I think that's how I kind of got brought back in, because of what happens to get them into the bedroom. And as I'm sitting there watching, it's really funny.
It's funny,
happens.
yeah.
It's very funny. But when I'm watching it, I realize, okay, this killer's been gone for a minute. It's got to happen. And then I thought, okay, you're about to pull a Halloween on me. I know what you're about to do. So I never got fully pulled out of it. But there were things in my head that were kind of making me think, oh man, I think I need to just start looking into who's the killer and kind of tune out the rest of it and kind of piece it together.
Yes.
But I didn't. I stuck along with the ride for the most of the time.
So we get a lot of MacGuffins, or maybe not. We get a big chase scene after this bedroom. It's not poorly directed.
No.
The Hard Eye. My favorite part about Hard Eyes as a stalker is he's kind of like Batman. Like,
I was just about to say, he is a walking Swiss Army knife.
Yes.
This killer has everything on them.
A cool machete with a knuckle guard, throwing knives, crossbow with transforming arrows.
A giant knife for close range.
Yeah, like everything. A hunting knife. And the movie does make sure that you notice that this killer is very prepared for multiple... It shows them pulling out the new weapon, sheathing their machete, pulling out their crossbow. And the killer does have really good presence.
Yes.
And at the same time, like Ghostface or more contemporary slashers, our protagonists are capable of pushing them down, getting out of the way. And there's a lot of effective shots that kind of reminded me of maybe Friday the 13th remake.
There's
good machete scraping and walking towards the victims.
Yes. There's a scene in it that almost feels shot for shot from Freddy versus Jason.
Okay.
Whenever Jason is in the cornfield and he's killing everybody, there's a scene in the movie that feels very similar to that. So, and I'm not going to say where it's at or anything like that, but you know what I'm talking about. If you've seen Freddy versus Jason, you know what to expect. So there are a lot of homages to other slashers in this film, and that's fine. I don't mind that at all. If anything, it'll give more people a reason to go watch other things as well as this and kind of dig in on where they got the ideas from. Yeah.
I like the fact that while the movie from the beginning sets up its rules that HEK will kill couples, but HEK has no problem killing anybody else that gets in HEK's way of killing couples. And I thought the news bulletins was a very nice way to just establish a universe and kind of just set the boundaries so the audience knew who was vulnerable.
The only thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way is there's a scene probably about 20 minutes in when they realize that HEK is there. There's a news bulletin that says that 2 more people have died. And I didn't really like that. I don't like whenever they do that kind of stuff in horror movies, whenever they kind of talk about somebody who dies off screen,
especially a slasher film.
Exactly. And
any excuse for another kill is something you show,
or an excuse to show the killer again, for sure. Because it's this killer is not hidden at all in this film. They're very much shown the whole time. So there's a report that 2 people have died in a sauna, and to me, having a killer like HEK kill somebody in a sauna, there's so many creative things they could have done in that. So it kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, but they pay off for that later. So I kind of redeem it.
I think we get a really long cat and mouse, and anybody that our leads, Jay and Emmy, Allie, shit. They really are the focus of the entire movie. This is 100%. This is a chase movie through and through. This is not a killer working their way up to our leads. This is the leads are being chased the entire time, kind of thing. And we kind of get a really big crescendo moment with a drive-in movie scene, which I won't spoil too much, but it was very. We never get to see a killer really operate in open public.
Mhm.
too often. You know, like Scream 2 kind of comes to
Yes.
mind. But I thought that was a very interesting set piece, and I think that Chelsea is. I'm kind of trying to read Chelsea because I kind of dragged her to this one, right? Because she
Yeah.
didn't know anything about the movie. I was just like, "Come watch it with me," and she had whispered to me early in the movie. She goes, "This is worse than Baby Girl," and we get a very grotesque kill,
Yep.
and at
That is
this,
ruined in the trailer, so do
yeah,
not watch the trailer
yeah.
at all. Just go into this movie raw.
And we get a big turn at this kind of hour point in the film.
Mhm.
And Chelsea leans over to me and she goes, "I'm so in." And I was like, "So it's not worse than Baby Girl?" And she goes, "No." And this kind of third act kind of develops as these do. We get, a kind of hokey
Yeah.
Hallmark romantic moment, and then
Mhm.
a more and then the movie just kind of goes off where it needs to go for its finale, which
Yep.
obviously I won't spoil, but it is bloody and appropriate, and it is of high quality.
Yeah,
I would
for
say
sure.
that. And I think for me, watching Heart Eyes, it really took me to all the way through the credits for me to understand that this film is like one of the few like slasher comedies, especially slash romantic comedies, that it truly is 150-50 in its full commitments to a slasher movie and its full commitments to being a stupid Netflix love story.
Yeah.
And it really, and it's not, while it is making fun of these kind of Netflix turn off your brain, these Christmas romance movies that come out
Yes.
every holiday, like it's such it's so committed to making fun of those, but then by the time you finish it, you realize it really does believe and know that it's like that.
Yeah.
It's just the violence and killer is creative enough to really not make me think it's imitating
Yeah,
other
it's
slashers.
it's basically they had a romance script that accidentally got interrupted by a slasher,
Mm-hmm.
and it works very, very well. I will admit, I felt bad sitting in the theater with there only being a total of 4 people because I wish a little more people would come and watch this film.
Yes. And I think like we get a scene at the end where I'm not going to tell you what happens, but we get a scene at the end that takes place in a convertible, and
Mhm.
my God, I was so tense because they put these characters in a convertible for a reason.
Yep.
Because we know what these killers are capable of, or
Mhm.
this killer is capable of, and I'm just like, and I didn't know what was going to happen, and I'm not going to tell you what happens, but the hokiness of how romantic it is, I realized got to me because it's so stupid, but at the moment I'm like, I have the same stupid catharsis of like, I'm so happy right now.
Yeah. I honestly believe the only thing that holds this movie down are the side characters, except for one.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think that this movie gets brought down by the side characters. I would have been perfectly fine in this film if it just would have been Allie and Jay running away from the killer the whole time.
Yes.
But I think that's my biggest gripe about this film, which is crazy. I figured there would have been a lot more, but that's my biggest gripe is I feel like some of the side characters in this film kind of drag it down.
Yeah, I think some of that has to do with the fact that it is a chase film.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times in Scream or other good slashers, you get
Mhm.
introduced to a very wide cast,
Of course.
and then our killer has to make their way through to our leads
All of them.
eventually. Yeah.
And I think that's why I don't like the side characters is there's no development for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're just kind of there, which I understand. Being a huge slasher fan, that's kind of what you get in those, but there's no connection to really give you anything other than cool, I'll see you in a little bit dead. You
Yes.
know what I mean?
My only other issue besides that is there is another established couple in the film that
Mhm.
would have been a huge opportunity to use in some kind of
Yeah, I don't
developing
know.
way.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't do that. I
Yeah,
have no idea. It's
and
weird.
unfortunately, they're not used to capacity
Yeah.
after their appearance in the first act,
Yep.
and that was unfortunate. But I was very curious about what you were gonna say, because slashers, you love slashers like I love possession
Yeah, of
films,
course.
right?
And the thing with slashers is no matter how bad a slasher film is, there's always something good to take away from it. And I think that's why I always love slasher films, because even if they're garbage, you usually get kills that are really good or you get some funny moment. And in this film, you get both.
Hmm.
You get really ridiculous moments and then you get really cool kills in it as well. So it's the perfect combination of 80s and then 2000s mushed into
Hmm.
one. And I think that's why I enjoyed this film so much.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I
Mhm.
also had a great time. It was so funny to see Chelsea's mood change
Yeah.
before going in the theater and then coming out of the theater. She genuinely had a really good time, and Chelsea loves to like research films after
Mhm.
we watch them. So the whole ride home, she was just talking about like, oh, this person said they hated it because of this, and this person said they loved it, and she was like, it's
Yeah.
got a 90 on Rotten Tomatoes. So.
It,
Um,
it's it is such a fun film, and it's another really good holiday horror film.
mhm.
So it's definitely one that it should be getting seen by a lot more people right now.
Yeah.
A lot more people need to go and watch this film and just have a good time. I think they kind of messed up by not pushing this another week and putting it a little bit closer to Valentine's.
Yeah, I wonder what the data is like on that. If they
Yeah, I
need
do too.
like a 2 week lead time is too much or too little.
Mhm.
But yeah, I feel like when this is the kind of movie that when it hits Netflix or when
Oh,
it
it'll be
hit,
huge.
I think it'll
Yeah, it'll be huge.
it'll trend #1 for weeks, and then
Yeah,
people will talk about it again.
if the best thing they could do is kind of sneak this into the Hallmark category and just that's
Yeah,
what I would do if I was
yeah,
Netflix. I would put this in the Hallmark category because it's
yeah,
a Hallmark. It's what would happen in a Hallmark film if a serial killer interrupted. That's what it
yeah.
is.
And it's
Might as
but
well.
and that's I think that's the best part and the best
Mhm.
takeaway. It's like it's not even if it's not only if a slasher interrupted, it's a slasher interrupted and they really care about the quality of the slasher
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
It's not like falling in love with the snowman with the Christmas movie, right? It's like oh no, you get a really high caliber
Mhm. Yeah.
slasher in this Hallmark movie. But I'm glad. I'm very glad you liked it. That makes me excited.
Yeah, I love just having fun with horror movies, and that's what this is. It's so much fun. It really is. I don't think it's the greatest thing ever,
No.
but I definitely think it's a good time.
Yeah, I think this is easily a traditional Valentine's Day
Yeah.
watch film, and
It's a lot easier to watch tone wise than a lot of the Valentine's Day horror movies that are out.
yes,
For sure.
yes, absolutely. But yeah, I think you should go see it, Grayson. If you had to number it out of a 10, what would you give it?
It's a 7.
A 7? Yeah, I would
Yeah, it's
say.
a 7.
I'll say a 7.63.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
There you go.
Just because I love the ending.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of moments in this that'll be talked about for a while, including that one kill that does get spoiled in the trailer, but there's a scene that corresponds with that kill that it's an all-timer. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
So go see Hard Eyes and make sure and like and subscribe to this video if you have it this channel. If you have any other suggestions for holiday horror films you want us to review here on Carnage Candy, please make sure and leave them in the comments below. Grayson, you have a spectacular day, and you nerds who are watching, go watch our review of Valentine from 2001. Denise Richards is in it, Grayson.
She sure is.
She is so in it. That's my girlfriend.
She's all over the trailer too. Goodbye, everybody.
I'm all over Denise Richards.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.